We spend a lot of time talking about performance, about discipline, about resilience, but we don't talk nearly enough about what happens after survival becomes a habit. My guest today is JJ Parma, a retired Navy SEAL officer who spent over 2 decades leading, training, and selecting some of the most elite teams in the world. JJ has lived and continues to live at the edge of performance. And he's also done the harder work of asking what that kind of life leaves behind. In this conversation, we talk about ego as armor, why high performers struggle to be present, and what it means to rebuild from the root when discipline alone stops working. This isn't about shortcuts. It's not about miracle cures. It's about awareness and what becomes possible when you finally slow down enough to see yourself clearly. This is Drink Coffee, Do Cool Stuff. I'm Jason Elrod. Let's get into it. All right. Welcome to the show, JJ.
Jason, honored to be here. I've been looking forward to this one. Drink coffee and do cool things. Best title ever, by the way.
Best titled ever. So JJ, I am so stoked to have you on today. But like the title says, how do you take your coffee, man?
Easy question. I'm so simple, and I take my coffee black. Really black. So there's a caveat there. There's always a caveat. I do like heavy cream, but I am very strict and disciplined. We may get into that during the show, but I'm super disciplined, so I can only have raw cream. You've heard of that? So
okay, so like raw milk, raw cream.
Yeah, there's a company in California called Raw Farms, and you can only get it there. Some states, they have them legal issues with bringing in raw milk, and some of the dairy farmers rally against it. So in Texas, it's hard to find. You can go to the actual owners, property owners, right? These actual farmers to do it. A little bit more difficult here. They actually retail it because they're from California.
Okay.
And so when I come out west, that's when I'll get the Raw Farms and add just a dash. So that was the long answer to your question. It was actually 2 answers. It was black and it was heavy cream, but it has to be raw cream. So there's a caveat, asterisk. Right.
Okay,
there.
well, I'm gonna have to look that one up because I do like raw milk. I do like the opportunities, but I'm very milk agnostic most of the time.
So
unless you tell me something like oat milk or almond milk or soy milk or something like that, because that's not milk.
No, sin. Those are chemicals in a box.
Yeah. So
in a box.
We agree. We have an agreement there.
Yeah.
Me, I'm usually just the Americano. So it's a couple of shots of espresso with some water. Call it good.
That's what I have. I'm the Americano guy. We're 2 for 2 now. We're rolling.
2 for 2.
Yeah, 2 for 2.
I'll have to get after it. So I'm going to jump right into it. So you are ex-Navy SEAL. However, I think SEALs are forever. So I'm not sure that's the next thing. Thank you very much for your service.
Glad you corrected yourself. Yeah.
Yep, SEALs are forever there. But I have a bunch of stuff to ask on this one. But I think I'll start right off with most people think elite performance is about speed. In your experience, when does speed become a liability? Because I have to think you've had to make a few decisions under a little bit of pressure where speed is of the essence.
Yeah. So great lead in. So I do public speaking. I don't know if I told you in our pre-chat. So I do some public speaking. The theme that I originally started with, and I still do, is elite teams, right? And so what are the characteristics of elite teams? And we can dive into each one of them. But it's funny because people do think everything is fast, right? In the elite world. Some of the teams that I talk about, so I reference a couple of organizations when I do my speech. Some of them would be shocking to you, like the Tokyo String Quartet. I don't know if you know this, but that is one of the most elite groups. Yeah, I know.
I do not know them personally. I always take notes during these, by the way. So now I'm looking that up. The Tokyo.
This is a great story. Yeah, great story. This all came from, and this is actually how I found my way, or was a significant multiplier in my decision to become a SEAL, right? When I was graduating college in 1996, there was, I believe it was the 96 edition. It was 96 it was 96. Fortune magazine did a spread on elite teams.
Okay.
And this is where I first got interested. And on the cover were Navy SEALs, a Tokyo String Quartet, the boot and coot hellfire guys. They jump into oil wells, right?
Oh, okay.
A NASCAR pit crew, the 1995 Dallas Cowboys,
Okay.
and the 1994 UNC women's soccer team. All right, so these are some of the teams that they covered. Um, and
Okay.
it went into deep. Yeah, it really was intriguing. And then Navy SEALs were there, and all these guys dressed in black. And I started reading. I was fascinated with the article, absolutely fascinated by some of the things. And then if you go in and start dissecting each one of those teams,
Yeah.
like a NASCAR pit crew. If you've ever, I'm not a NASCAR guy. Like I couldn't care less about watching cars go in a circle. It's just not my thing. People are going to hate me for that, but and some people just love it. I will watch a couple laps on TV, but
Mm,
500, no, I'm not sitting there for any 500. I love the stock cars, but the Formula One, when those guys go in, if you just watch the pit crew, it is the timing and the sync that they have to have is unparalleled. Like you can't screw up, and that everything is down to the second where that car has to drop and go, and they are changing tires and rotating positions. I mean, you want to talk about? Oh, another one was the trauma unit from Boston. What hospital was it now? It escapes my mind. The UMass trauma unit, because they had one of the highest trauma rates in the nation, but the way the team operated when they had some severe level 4 traumas come through the door.
wow.
Just fascinating stuff that people wouldn't really think about applying. But how did they function? How do they operate? Everybody thinks that speed is a critical. It is a critical piece, but not for everything, right? So you mentioned, yeah, we've had to adjust on the fly. So we get things in the field. So in Iraq, one image comes to my mind when you say that. So when we go on a mission, and in 2005, I was with a SEAL Team 4 platoon deployed to
Yeah.
Iraq, and we were doing assaults. All right, so we were going out every single night for 6 months straight. I mean, just rolling out. We had enough targets out there, that we could prosecute every night, and so ultimately, you'd get into the field, and we would capture or take hostage, or not hostage, but capture just persons of interest, high value targets. We would take them off target, and
Okay.
often that would lead to a very quick interrogation, which is some of the stuff that I was doing with a code member of mine. We would do that in the back room, and we're not talking about waterboarding or anything. This is like legitimate. Hey, guys, they're scared. Everybody's up in arms, and
Right.
you have a critical 5 minutes when you take somebody off target, where they realize they're in shock and awe, and you can get actually valuable intel by
Right.
being a human being. Believe it or not, none of these techniques and all this. Yeah,
Go
no, this.
figure. The
I
psychology of
could talk to
life,
you, I
right?
could talk to you an hour about the interrogations that I did, and I'm an untrained at the time. I was an untrained interrogator. Just getting a rapport as quick as possible with a human to human condition with an individual. Believe it or not, they would yield some information. So we would get what we call a fragmentary order, where we would get some valuable intel at 2 in the morning, and it might be time sensitive. And so we had to make and now realize every mission every night was planned hours before, walkthroughs, sand tables, the whole 9 yards.
Well, I'd
Every
have to think so. Almost like its own pit crew stop every night.
Correct. But when you get a frago and it has to be immediate and it's time sensitive, you're on the fly. You're drawn in the dirt.
Okay.
You have 5 vehicles out there. You're rejocking, reloading, putting in water, maybe some bullets in your magazine, and you're gone. And so that
Mm.
happened every so often. Yes, there's speed involved, but we always say in the SEAL teams, smooth is fast, fast is smooth.
I
Okay,
1,000%. Martial arts for 40 years now. Slow is smooth. Smooth is
same
fast.
same
Slow,
thing.
smooth,
So
smooth.
yeah, slow is fast, fast is slow. It's being deliberate, but being quick about it, right? And so
Yeah.
not just going throttle, all full throttle, because things turn bad really fast when you go full throttle.
So, so on that, what's the most dangerous decision you almost rushed?
Oh, that's a great question. There's been many. We okay. So let's go to Afghanistan.
Yep.
2001. We uh, we almost rushed on a village in southern Afghanistan. So put it in perspective for you. I went in with James Mattis. I was a SEAL Team 8 platoon back in
Okay.
2001 November timeframe. That's how quick we were there. So when the horsemen were coming down 13 strong from the
Mhm.
north, which you've seen that movie,
Yep.
when those guys were coming from the north, we were coming from the south. James Mattis
Got it.
led the first real major infantry push with his Marines, and so we embedded with 75 Marines. There were four of us that brought in a SEAL platoon that ended up operating out of southern Afghanistan from the south before General Mattis took Kandahar.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit of military history down there on 9/11. And so one night we were out and we were watching a village named Lash Kagar down there. And we were tented up overnight. It was a reconnaissance, and we were looking for obviously Taliban, Al Qaeda. And we almost took a village that we should never have thought about taking. But during the night, we had some intel that was kind of sketchy, and we were taking video and kind of trying to interpret in the field what we think we
Right.
saw, and what we think we saw was definitely not what it was. And so we decided not to take the village on the following night for a raid, and
Mhm.
smartly because the Taliban hadn't been there in months, according to the locals. So it was I mean, it was because if we went in, we were going in to soften it up real quick with
Okay.
air strikes, and then that would have been the first thing to drop. It's that one decision away, right? So hey,
Run one decision. Yeah.
and if I called in air and the CO wanted to take it, we were going to take that, and that would have been not a good start to a southern push from southern Afghanistan. But luckily, we didn't do it, and
Yeah.
we
Well,
called.
when you have seconds to decide like that, what what did you actually rely on? Was it training, instinct, judgment, a blend?
So instinct is the driver in a
Okay.
decision like that, where the intelligence is, let's just say, inconclusive, right? So it's
Mhm.
inconclusive. I think there's a lot of leadership. I think the leader at the time, he was a great guy, and I think he made the right decision. Especially given the
Mm.
backdrop of why we were
Right.
there and how quickly there's a lot of rage, right, coming
Yeah.
from all Americans on the ground. That was brand new. The fire was still stoking, and so yeah, I think to have that kind of intestinal fortitude to be able to do that when you know that you just want to go. And General Mattis, that guy, if you've ever seen him speak, he's my favorite Marine, and
Okay.
I'm going to get some Marine hate for that. But that guy was everything that he portrays himself to be. He was a war dog. He actually had the twisted, pot helmet.
Okay.
He looked like uh, he looked like
You know, Patton kind of
yeah,
look.
Patton and Churchill. He was all he was missing was the walking stick, like the stick. And so he tilted one star when he was there, and he was just he took his orders were just get after it, go get after the fight, right? Post 9/11 orders, just go get after it, go get in a fight, take them down, kill them all. He was that kind of leader, and we hadn't seen that in forever. And so guys are
Nope.
just like frothing at the mouth. And so yeah, to be able to have that restraint in a situation like that, it shows professionalism at a
Right.
special operator level. That is what I really loved about being in that community in the first place.
It sounds like a lot of people had I'm gonna say at least a decent relationship with ego on that.
Oh,
Because,
oh yeah.
'cause I know just experience-wise for me, not that ego plays a huge role in bad decisions. And, um, what's your experience of that with elite teams, with the SEALs? I mean, does where have you seen or what role does ego play in bad decisions from your perspective?
A major role, especially when you're a Type A Tier One operator. Ego drives a lot of bad decisions. A lot of bad decisions. I mean, Believe me, that was one story I gave you where we showed restraint, but there's
Right.
been many more where we haven't, and then tried to cover it up. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into the dirt in the mud because every organization has it, which is where accountability comes in.
Right. Right.
You,
Mhm.
you make mistakes all day long. If you're accountable, that's okay. And as long as you learn from it and fix it. But we've had a lot of problems where we weren't accountable as a community, as a nation. And so, yeah, but ego drives all those, right? So the ego also can save your life, right? In certain
Yes.
instances.
100%. It has a place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you check yourself when confidence starts to feel like certainty? I mean, maybe that piece. If we're going to pull on the ego bit a little bit more, how do you check yourself when confidence starts to feel like certainty?
Um, you really need to watch out. Yeah, you really need to watch out for that. And it's hard. It's hard to catch it, especially in an environment like combat or a very intense operation, because you're trained. So we always train to success. I know
Right.
Jocko Willink will have a different perspective on this. We actually had a conversation
Mhm.
where I went to the West Coast teams after being on the East Coast for so long,
Okay.
which I welcomed. And I was a platoon commander, took charge of a SEAL platoon back in 2010, and Jocko Willink was in charge of training. It was my first interaction with Jocko. He's a great individual, by the way, great leader, great. He's everything you see on the podcast and everything else. But I did have a little issue because we always train to success. And Jocko's thing was we had been through Iraq and Afghanistan. Now it's 2009, 2010. Um, he didn't feel we were properly trained for what actually happens, casualties, because we had now taken some, right? SEALs
Right.
were untouchable up until we started dying in '05 and in Operation Red Wing
Yeah.
and Mark Luttrell and those guys. And so up until then we started losing people. Then Extortion 17 happened while we were on deployment. So Jocko's training philosophy was, we've got to train a little bit to failure. I always disagreed with that, and I still do. I think I'm open. I was always open to the suggestion, but it caused so much angst inside the guys, and especially my guys. They had kind of warned me, "Hey, this is what we're going to do. We've been through this training before, and we're going to end up not getting any goals accomplished on target when we do training. We're going to be dragging dead guys out and hurt guys, and we're going to be triage. All that is good, and it has its place, but I think what we did on the East Coast was a lot better. We trained for success every time, because when you enter a house, last thing you want to be doing is, oh my god, am I going to have to Kazovac 6 guys? That's the last thought you want when you go.
You.
Last thought. I'm a
Yeah.
big look. Guys get hurt. They go through the door. They're going in there thinking, okay, I've trained to success. We will adapt and overcome. We always plan for that. We always train for that. But when it becomes the priority to train to failure, I think that's a mistake. And so ego is a good thing on those types of operations for sure. But the ego is also what drives a lot of problems when you can't turn it off. And I think a lot of these type A, this is a hole, not this is a rabbit hole you could dive down all day long, which is why I ended up at the Ibogaine treatment, and that's a story for another time. But that stuff,
I've heard about that. We have another episode we're going to have to do for
yeah,
that.
the reason I brought it up
Yeah.
is it's known to be an ego killer. and
Oh,
and
okay.
in such a good way for individuals like me who couldn't turn it off for so many
Mhm.
years. I mean, years. Um, Once it turns off, it opens your neural pathways and your brain to a whole new palette, right? So a whole new landscape opens up, and it's kind of transformational. But it's hard to do on your own, especially when it's driven into you for 21 years. The average life of a team guy is about 8 years, and so that's
Yeah.
bad.
And
Uh,
you were in a couple of decades, 20, I
Yeah,
think, right?
yeah. 21 years, yeah. This is a
So,
long time. Long
so,
time.
God, there's a couple of things here. So, uh, what what did you have to unlearn once the stakes weren't life and death, like moving into the civilian world, but the pressure was still real? And you mentioned a little bit there about dealing with some of that pressure and trying to turn that down from 11 a little bit down to I would call it civilian levels. Um, what'd you have to unlearn?
You have to unlearn actually how not to drive yourself into the ground.
Okay.
Um, Team guys work so tirelessly and constant around them. I mean, they're gone. We're gone more on workup, working up to deploy for 6 months than we are on deployment. It's 220 days on the road of training, and then you say bye to your family and you leave. And so I think you really have to unleash. You get into the civilian world. So here's a great example. I was incapable of taking time off. I was so
Wow.
petrified of doing the military to civilian transition that when I got an opportunity, which was a really good one to step out of uniform in, but when I got that opportunity, because the best advice I ever got from one of my mentors
Mhm.
was make sure you take time after 20 years in the teams or 21 years in the teams. This was a senior officer, and he said, make sure you take 6 months off. You've at
Okay.
least earned that, right? Because you've never had that in your life. You don't even know what it's like. You're so accustomed to just turning and burning and not even taking leave, that you're authorized. Um, and I ignored it. I totally ignored it. Yeah, yeah. True story. Hard headed,
Roger that. I'm going to get right back at it. Thanks.
jackass attitude, and I ignored it. Didn't take time off. Stepped into a role where I just tried to burn and burn and burn and burn, and all about performance metrics, right?
Yeah.
But that the problem with an ego-driven Type A individual is that performance metrics, you reach them. It's almost like the sales game. It's not
That's good.
about it's not about the commission. It's not about like that's great. You can pay your electric bill, but it's not. You realize it's not about that. It's about the hunt. And when it becomes about the hunt, the game, it's
Yeah.
never ending. It's a never ending show. You
Yep.
reach your performance, and then that's not good enough. I gotta you're in a lot of ways, and I don't want to say this. Should have taken advantage of every team guy that got out and made them a sales guy for the first 5 years. I'm telling you, they don't know. We just don't know how
Seems
to
a
sell.
little abusive, but
Yeah, yeah, it would be complete abuse of system resources. But yeah, that's a problem, and it took me. Now I've realized that those small sessions of peace are so critical right now. Which is the complete opposite of what you live lifestyle in the teams.
well, it's so important. I talk about it from the context of burnout in corporate, burnout just in life in general. And I liken it to a battery. So if you show up on Monday and your battery is at 100%, 100%, I've recharged, and I go at it, I go at 100, maybe 110%, a couple extra hours. I don't sleep a little bit that night. So my battery's now 90% when I get to Tuesday. And I go 100%, but somehow I'm not hitting exactly what I know I can because I know I can do 100%. For some reason, I'm capped at 90%. So I try a little harder, I rest a little less. So that by the time I show up on Wednesday, that battery is somewhere around 60%. And so even if I give 100%, I've only got 60% to give. And the same thing happens on Thursday and Friday. And until Friday, I am doing everything I can, using all resources I have, but I only showed up with 20%. And I'm given 100%, but 100% is 20%, and that's a flunking grade. You're failing. And so it's that miss of if you never recharge that battery and you come in and say, I'm giving 100%, but you don't have 100% to give, that's a lie. You're lying to yourself, you're lying to your family, you're lying to your job, your work, your community. It requires recharging to 100% so you can give it. And I think a lot of folks miss that one little distinction,
Yeah,
especially type A, go, go, go. I can just work harder, longer, sleep less, drink more
right.
coffee.
Yep.
And coffee's glorious by itself, anyways. But
Glorious.
but that point that you just hit, I think that's a key thing there um, for anybody experiencing burnout, and especially the people with the curse of competence.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's the system though, Jason.
Mhm.
The system is designed to burn you out. You have to beat the system. You have to somehow realize, how do I beat the system? Not by being less of a performer,
Hmm.
but how do I maximize it? So one of the things I learned was weekends are off limits. They never were before, and this is new, by the way. And
Okay.
I'm 21 years out and then 7 years retired. And so I'm just learning this now. Weekends are off limits because the company will have you, they'll take you, right? They may say, weekends shut down, you're always in.
Yeah.
And now
Unlimited PTO.
go every now, yeah, which I don't even take. I had to take it my Christmas, like who's but that phone will creep in on the
Mhm.
weekend. There'll be Slack, and my wife's been a real godsend at that. She'll give me the side eye, a little side eye. What's he doing? And then it doesn't take. That's all it takes, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh god,
Goes kinda
that,
like this, then you go, "Oh, oh,
yeah,
no, I was just moving it. I was
yeah,
just moving it over here, that's all."
yeah, yeah. She's been a godsend at that. And
You
although she's equally as guilty as me. So
well,
that's
you can side eye back. I mean, I've been married 31
yeah,
years now, so I mean, so like
yeah,
equal side eye, it works,
yeah. My
Uh,
side eye doesn't translate
no,
as
no, no, we're guys, it doesn't work as well. We're
yeah,
we're we're just not as innately skilled with it. I'm
no,
sorry. I'm sorry, it just doesn't happen that way. You mentioned something I've talked about recently on, though. It's the idea of drift and momentum versus intention. So you're talking like, and I called it out a little bit as the curse of competence, right? You can work more. You are a high performer. You can do 3 jobs and you do it, and the world will continue to ask you for it. And what happens is we confuse momentum with purpose. Just because you've got momentum, just because you're doing a lot of stuff doesn't mean you're tracking towards purpose. And the way you sort of start to align that is with intention. Are you acting with intention? Is this what the me should be doing in this case here? And I think that it's that drift that impacts high performers. Sometimes when you say drift, it's like, oh, there's that lazy guy playing,
yeah,
playing his Nintendo on there every day, all the time. He's just drifting through life. I don't mean that. It's the drift offline because of momentum, because we're doing more, because we're trying to catch up and provide because we can, and we know you can.
right.
But are you tracking with purpose? Are you actually living with intention?
Yeah, that's hard, and it's hard. It's hard to gauge it. It's hard. It's hard to pick that up, and it's hard to find what purpose is a big deal. People always talk about purpose, and that's a big one.
Big
Um,
word.
I think so. Here's a realization I came to recently too. I always tried to look when I stepped out of the military. I worked on Wall Street for 7 years,
Mhm.
um, but I couldn't do it unless I told myself unless I had purpose. Okay, so people go, what do you mean you're working for a hedge fund? And what did you do? You raised money, right? And then you got a lot of money. And then I go, yeah, but here's how I rationalize taking that job because I won't perform unless the job has purpose, right?
Mhm.
I just know that inside me. If I don't believe in the mission of what I'm doing, regardless of military or civilian world, it's hard to get behind. And so I would trick myself into thinking, okay, so I was raising money for pension funds, and I'm a pensioner myself, right? So 21 years in the military, big deal to me, right? If somebody told me tomorrow my pension was going to be cut off, I'd be furious. And so I literally took this. I warped this in my mind that I'm raising money for union pensions and stuff like that, and these people depend on that, and they do. They do. They need it. They've been promised. They were made a promise. They completed the metric, whatever they had to get to, and you're going to get paid for the rest of your life, and you earned it. And so we were investing their money to make them more money to keep their pensions alive. That's how I justified it. Same thing with Zero Eyes. Zero Eyes has true purpose, right? So now I'm working for a company that actually protect. And God forbid, God rest their souls. We just had. I mean, it's never ending. So Brown University yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there you go. Right? It's not. Sadly, I'm in this job that needs to be there, and which is why the company was developed. And so here we go, another college shooting in Rhode Island, and so Zero Eyes has purpose. But I realized recently my purpose isn't in the job itself. Sure, you got to like what you do, and
Yeah.
you never work a day if you like what you do. So, sure, you have to enjoy the mission, but that's not the purpose. The purpose I realized was supporting the family that I have, which has now grown into a massive blended family, and keeping those relationships without ignoring them. Because when I was performing at a high level and I thought the purpose was in the job, I was wrong. You were neglecting what actually matters. Your legacy is never going to lie in the human realm. It's going to lie with the relationships you have with your family.
Yeah.
And that was a big eye opener, even post Ibogaine for me. And just recently coming into that and realizing my purpose is here. Whether I lose my job tomorrow or I got sick and everything, who's going to be there? It's the people that you're forming. That is your purpose. Your purpose is to strengthen those bonds until you have no time left on earth.
Yeah.
That's your true purpose.
Well, that's your only measure of immortality, too, by the way. The legacy you leave, the
Right,
good you did.
right. And it ain't gonna be the people in Wall Street aren't gonna be at my funeral.
No.
I remember me 2 years from now. And then people forget that all the time. You feel
Yeah.
like you're
I
so
have
good.
yet for any company to erect a statue for me once I've left.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
be like, yeah, that guy worked here. Look at that. Woo. What's his
My
name?
bust won't be next to the bull on Wall Street.
Yeah, yeah. There'll be small little statues, a bunch of little ones there, but Um, so I'll ask you a question about the Ibogaine. So what do you think the biggest shift, and you already alluded to it a little bit, was before and after?
Oh,
I'd love to get into it like in between, because I know that's a huge journey piece, and we're kind of jumping to the end.
oh man,
Before
you're
and
opening
after,
up.
what was the biggest delta for you?
You are opening up a can. This is a. Whew. Yeah, I mean, so did you see the documentary that came out? So my buddy Marcus Capone and his wife Amber, they run the Mets
I haven't
Foundation.
seen it, but I listened to an entire like 2 hours
Yeah,
of the conversations around the topic.
In Waves and More is the Netflix
In
documentary.
waves and more. Okay.
Here I am plugging it. Go Marcus and Amber. Great people. Marcus Capone was a longtime team guy, comrade of mine from back in 2000. And so I've known Marcus for a long time. He went over to SEAL Team 6. The story goes on. He burned out.
Hmm.
Real problems at home, and thus I'm touching wave tops here on
Yeah.
how deep it gets. And he told me a story, and Amber can tell you the family was on the brink of destruction, and
Mhm.
they were looking for every treatment under the sun. And this, you'd meet Marcus today, and he's like a big 6'5" teddy bear. But he had a lot of struggles along, and we all do. And so it was funny because when I met him, this is how it all happened. He was in Coronado here up the road, not too far. He loved to hear, and he was starting his vets thing, and he had done the treatment. And I met him at Starbucks. We would often see each other there on Orange Avenue in Coronado and sit down. What are you doing, Marcus? And I was in Wall Street thinking, oh, I made it. Like I have no issue. I came out of the team successful. Yeah, I'm on. I, I've got got a nice
Hey, ego has entered the room.
egos. I was basically ego sitting with non-ego because he's looking at me going, yeah, you should go down for it. And I said, there's some guys that really need that. Right. So
Right.
I don't get to, I think I'm doing okay. Right. So no problem. Fast forward 2 years later, that was about 2018 or 19. And then fast forward 2 years, there he is again, Starbucks. Now he's really ramping up. Vets is going. He's got a fund going. Same thing. He said, yeah, you should go down.
Look into this.
I said, what are you seeing in me that I'm not? I go, I'm happy go lucky, always happy guy. Anyway, long story short, I finally in 2022, I said, you know what? Maybe there's something to it. Whatever drove me, whatever
Mhm.
ignited inside me, I said to him, all right, Marcus, I'm gonna go down. He goes, good. I've already got you signed up. And so
Here's
yeah,
your ticket.
it's right over the border, right here when I was in San Diego.
Okay.
For the treatment and went over to Mexico, and 1 week of life changing. So this isn't and I say this, and you'll see it when you see the documentary.
Mhm.
This isn't something. It isn't something that fixes you forever. It is something that opens your mind to in a bunch of people, and I speak about team guys and special operators at this time, but it's not just for them. It's happening to many people. Um, our brains were just shut down. First of all, just on a physiological lack of sleep deprivation,
Yeah.
bad diet, just bad lifestyle, constant on the go, total burnout, testosterone dropping, all like natural health stuff that destroys the body. So you have that problem, along with whatever baggage you had going into the SEAL teams or the special operations community. It's the perfect storm of just misery coming out, whether you think you're on top of it or not, right? So all of us, just the way we operate on a day-to-day basis. And so what Ibogaine did was it opened up pathways that had been dead for years, that had been untapped, sitting there. I mean, it is, the experience itself is, to look back at it, is mind blowing. Mind blowing. What is actually in your brain that you don't actually realize you retain. Ibogaine opens that up. 13 hours of pain. It's like, this isn't a pleasurable.
Really selling it with that last one though, right there. 13 hours.
Yeah.
Pain.
Well, it's not a pleasurable experience.
Obstacle is the way, though. That's a Marcus Aurelius right there. You know, that's a stoicism.
That's exactly right. That's right. That's right.
Obstacle is the way.
That book is the greatest, by the way.
Meditations.
What's that?
Meditations.
Meditations are on my shelf. I pick it up every now and then. Aside from the Bible, that's like the best thing going. And so I encourage everybody to flip through that, because one day I did it and I was blown away. And so yeah, it opens up your pathways. And so 13 hours, this isn't something you want to do. Some people get called to do it twice, supposedly get called. Marcus does it once a year, I think. I don't know how he does it. Maybe he's just like, because it's a brutal ride.
Wow.
I mean, you're exhausted. That's why they have a gray day afterwards. I'm literally down for 24 hours. You don't want to move. You don't want to talk to anybody. You just curled up in a ball. And it brings out some stuff. And what you realize, so this is the theory. This is the theory, and this is my theory, and I think it holds pretty true. And I guess somebody at some point, actually Marcus Luttrell and his wife talked about, Melanie talked about, somebody had brought up trauma in the SEALs.
Okay.
And what you realize was, I expected all these combat memories to flow in, all this rush of losing bodies and survivor's guilt, and all the combat that you saw. It was none of that. And so what I realized was, I'd been harboring childhood trauma from the day I was like 3 years old. And my trauma was sometimes it's not even what you'd think it would be. So I was raised by a single mom, right? So my parents were divorced from the tiny age of, I was 4 years old. My sister was 6. And I remember the day. The fact that I remember the day, you're not even supposed to have childhood memories. They say till the age of 5, if you're living a happy child. And I always thought I had a happy, great childhood. And I did. But I became type A. All the characteristics of being an overperformer, super high performer, type A, nonstop, all stemmed from the lack of a father figure, which is why I found the SEAL teams.
Bang.
I basically was right, and I found the greatest bunch of guys at the right time in my life. When you put it all together and look in the rearview mirror, it's amazing how, because you can go one of two ways when you have childhood trauma. You can go down the wrong path and you become a statistic, or you can do the crazy route, which is what I call it, I guess, for lack of a better word, which is what I did. I found a community. And some of the greatest people I've ever met, some of my senior leaders in the teams, and some senior enlisted guys when I was a brand new guy, I was basically raised in the teams and that was my male model, because I didn't have that when I was a kid. And so I model myself off of that. So I'm a mix of all this wild, crazy team guys and really squared away officers who were super smart coming from the academy, and this mix of just like the perfect storm of an individual who's super, learn to be intelligent, and then at the same time learn to be a complete idiot at times. And so it's like, but then you realize that that's where it all came from. That's the long story to answer to your question. I came out of there a completely different person. At least ego. If you were to take the ego, just got pulled right out. And you realized, wow, I'm not invincible. I'm just a normal human being. But you learn to accept yourself, because you do not, and when you're in the SEAL teams, you do not love yourself and you do not accept yourself. I'm telling you right now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. You complete neglect for yourself and your well-being. And that mental well-being is so critical. If we could harness that and then turn them into super operators, that that's a that's for the future. But every one of these guys should be pumping through that program because there's something back then you found the teams, they didn't find you.
Right.
I still think it's the same today. We don't have a recruit. I've seen one or two commercials in my lifetime for the team guys. They don't even have it on TV. Nobody watches cable anymore, and so now it's like they used to have a pretty cool commercial. Obviously, the water, and at night. It's a
Oh, and they
beach.
pull the Zodiac up and
No. It's just a beach. It was the coolest ad they ever had. They ran it like, I don't know, 10 years ago. But the beast would watch up, and then the waves washed away. Then there were footsteps, and it was
I've seen that one. Gives me chills thinking about it.
that was brilliant, and that's all it was. And then the wave would wash away the footsteps, and it would say U.S. Navy SEALs recruiting. I thought that was the greatest recruiting thing ever. But yeah, we don't need commercials. People find the teams, and they find it for a reason. They're looking for what they think is purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I didn't know anything about it. I said, "This is what I want to do." I mean, who does that? What kind of decision making tree is that? Like, sir, I want to be one of those guys. A poster on the wall, and you're like, "Yeah, let me be a team guy." And glad I did it. Like, no regrets. It probably saved my life in a lot of ways.
Well,
Who knows?
yeah.
I don't know what the alternative would have been. I don't know where I would have ended up. I always think about that. One decision away from a completely different life. But yeah, Ibogaine's powerful. It's a powerful tool. I think it helps most people. Addiction. It started with addiction. That's how the guys in Canada figured this out. And it was curing addiction, like bad addiction, heroin addictions for people up there. And one treatment. So they say, yeah, I think Melanie Luttrell was the one who told me. They say that one week in Mexico and one Ibogaine treatment is like 500 therapy sessions.
Oh,
and when you're turning 50, you don't have time for 500 therapy sessions.
Time, it kind of. Yeah. The numbers are getting closer there. I'm gonna put a note in and a link to a couple of things about Ibogaine inside of the show notes here, because I do have context for it. I've listened to a little bit of it. But I think it would be fantastic for some folks to be able to look at that and find it as a resource to get out to it.
Yeah.
So I'll be sure to include that in there. So anybody's listening, Ibogaine, it'll be in the show notes. Check that out. I think it's life-changing. And it's interesting, JJ. All I've ever heard from anybody who's ever been associated with that, with Ibogaine and the potential impact has been aligned with what you just said.
Yeah.
They said it's life-changing. And I do think it's interesting. You said it kind of stripped away something you didn't think was the actual sort of I look at it this way, like a knot holding all these little pearls on a string, right? And you think all these little pearls that, these points and parts of my life that have stacked up over time to create this necklace of existence or pain or whatever I had. And you think it's one of these pearls down here, but it's not. It's that knot at the beginning, the very, very bottom. And for folks, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, it's like untying that knot at the bottom. You pop that out, and the rest of that stuff can just drop.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. It's really, really changes the course of your life when you can actually admit, all the anger, all the harboring of all that stuff, all comes from trauma that's stored up that you're not dealing with
somewhere in there.
And I hate to overuse the word trauma, but it's a real thing. Call it what you want. You make up any word for it. There are experiences in life that you bottle up, trauma, that you ignore, that you don't think affect you, and Ibogaine makes you face them. Literally pulls you into the arena and says, "You're going to get after this, or you're going to look at it. And if you're not ready to, you won't." That means it wasn't time, but it does show. It was clear to me right away from the images I had and some of the memories as a child. It's unbelievable what you're looking at. It's like HD TV.
Wow.
It's bizarre. Yeah, it's wild. It's mind blowing. I get chills every time I talk about it. It's been 3 years now. 3 years. And people, drinking was another one. So for team guys, alcohol was always a not alcoholism. And you've probably heard this before. Guys weren't alcoholics. They were using it to self-medicate and to turn off from the world. And that's why team guys are known for just burning, party hard, play hard, work hard. And that was the team guy lifestyle. and you realize all you're doing is covering up the symptoms that you should have been dealing with
Yeah.
the entire time. And then you come out of Ibogaine, you just stop drinking. This happens, and
Mhm.
sometimes it takes a year, but it slowly just tapers off, and you realize as you're recognizing who you are, it's mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing. It's unbelievable, the cures for it, and then the VA. VA is a great organization, great people. They do great things, but they've got a lot of things wrong just because it's this esoteric, you know, beast of an organization.
Oh, yeah. Bureaucracy is a dragon for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, they try to medicate you with pills that just are killing people, actually.
No.
So that's a whole other ball of wax. And those treatments they have just don't work. There's talk therapy, and it's not powerful enough for the trauma that some of these guys have. And to try to get a type A guy to do talk therapy consistently enough,
500 times?
yeah, 5,000 maybe. Like, I
1,000
don't know.
times?
You almost need a punch in the gut, which is what Ibogaine is, for somebody like us to wake up. And and when you do, it saves lives. And not in the medical way, like the physical way, but it saves lives in a mental way, which is more important in a lot of ways, because you can deal with other things where you couldn't deal with in the past. It's almost impossible.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah, I think, a lot of our medical establishment is based around treating the symptoms, not the cause.
correct.
There's not a ton of money, and this is where people in healthcare are gonna come at me, uh, is there's not a lot of money in curing the disease. There's a heck of a lot of money in treating the symptoms,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah,
I
there
think
is.
and I think Ibogaine's one of those things where I don't wanna necessarily look at the cause because I'm making so much more over here. There's a whole industry over here that's gonna say,
That's why
"Hey,
they've had such. Yep, that's why they're having such a.
pharmacology, here's talk therapy." There's this
Yep,
whole behemoth, again, a dragon that you're fighting against sometimes on
yep.
this one when the answer is, "Hey, you know what? Let's start looking at those causes. Let's
That's
treat the
why they're
cause."
having such a hard time on Capitol Hill trying to get these things
Yeah.
passed. It will destroy a system that's been in place for decades, making money hand over fist.
So
And
I was going to ask you a question about, what did SEAL training strip away from you before it built you back up? But I'm going to shift that actually. So because of the conversation about Ibogaine. So how did you build back up? Because the sound that process is going to strip away something. And even if we have negative trauma in our life, that sort of defines a bit of our personality, how we are, who we are, what we got after, what drove us to be a type A go getter type of person. So when you go back there and, like I say, untie that knot at that string there, you take that moment and you deal with the cause that was so early and so formative for you. How did you build back up? What did you build back? What was assistive in building you back up from that point?
um, what was assistive? So
Take it anywhere you like on it. Like, how did you build back up after that experience?
I maintain. Well, so I've always kind of been this way, which is probably what kept me alive. But the discipline, I actually maintained and made it a priority to make health and wellness the
Okay.
goal, right? So, and I say that in a way so that I could live longer and be happier. And the reason to be happier is kind of a loose phrase, but so I could live longer and enjoy what has just happened to me. So I want to be super dialed in on everything and look, I could get a heart attack tomorrow and die, right? So
Mhm.
you know God's script, I can't read it. He won't let anybody read him, his script that he has for everybody. We don't get to see it.
Mm.
It's playing out. But I'm going to do everything I can in the meantime to make sure that I live a healthy lifestyle so that I can get these years back, take control of the next half of the life, right? So mentally, I want to be in a complete, I want to enjoy the benefits that Ibogaine has has had. And it's a learning process. And again, God wrote his script and he brought Crystal, my wife, into my life, which has completely, it has, she was like, it's almost like you need to do Ibogaine before you get her. You don't deserve her until you do the Ibogaine, and the Ibogaine gift to you is going to be her. And she is so emotionally intelligent; it's off the charts. EI. She did the work. She did the work that would have taken for any team guy over a decade worth of work on herself. She's so dialed in. It's almost embarrassing. Like I feel, I feel inadequate when I speak to my wife, like on an emotional level. But she has kept that in check, and now I'm enjoying the benefits of Ibogaine by honoring her in the way that our relationship is growing. And so, does that make sense? Like I'm trying to, yeah. It's I am now open to a relationship of love because I can love myself, right? To get deep on you, but if you can't love yourself, you can't love somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's what blocks team. This is what blocks operators when they come home from connecting. This is the whole genesis of our podcast, where the fourth phase podcast came out. That connection. If team guys had connection and what to work for, that connection right there was worth every bit of it. And you're incapable of having it. I was anyway. Most people are in my shoes until that Ibogaine broke the chain. And once the chain was broken, now I'm able to enjoy that. And so that's how I'm building back up by learning. And she'll keep you in check. Every now and then, the old ego will pop its head, but you'll get a pointing. She'll point. She'll look at you and go,
Side eye.
"Yep, no, straight eye," which is even worse.
Straight at you.
Straight eye. I like zero eye.
Zero eye, straight eye, right at you.
Straight eye, and when she goes straight eye, you sit there and you stop, and your mouth shuts, and you recognize the pathways. Like you go into the pathways that were once closed are now open, and you're like, "Oh, I'm a jackass. Like, why did I do that? Interesting. 10 years ago, I would have told you, go F yourself. Like, you're wrong. I'm right. Let's move on." And that kind of attitude just doesn't work in connection. So that's the answer. Like, that's how and you're constantly learning. You're building back.
Constantly doing. You're building. That's why I asked, what are you building back?
I don't, yeah, that's what you're building back. Yeah.
And I think it's
build back better.
Build back better.
Build back better.
Triple B.
Yeah.
And I think God's plan is hidden from us. It is.
Indeed.
It is. And I like you, will live this life as long as I'm allowed to live it. There's some key words there. Live. How are you living? Because I think sometimes for some folks, that trauma puts a brick roof, or it fills this spot where maybe that love needed to start from. And it takes somebody going back there and pulling that back out and say, this doesn't go here. This goes over here. This goes over here. This protects this area where now there's a space, and hold on to that wife of yours there. She's a success architect for you. She's building it back with you. And it sounds like you've got that momentum. You're there. But I think it's the point, like you said, Ibogaine gave you the space. Said, hey, you know what? Let's loosen up this mortar, this brick and mortar here. Take this piece. That doesn't belong here. Something else goes here. Yep. Something else goes here.
Gives you awareness. It gives you awareness, right? That you didn't have before. And again, trauma, here's what trauma does to people. Trauma makes you look to the future instead of the now. It makes you look to the future because that's your escape. What's the next horizon? What do I need to get to? Because you're suppressing trauma, right? So what do I need to get to? And where Ibogaine opens it up and says, if you had 5 minutes left on the earth, how are you going to live? Which is living right in the now. And I was horrible at living in the now. You're so worried about what's happening in 5 minutes that you just missed a great moment. That is, this is the key. Because it's not easy. It sounds so easy to say. You've heard it a dozen times in the past, but it's so hard to do. And if you can actually do it, and those pathways are open and you're aware and you get a side eye or a straight eye, you know that, wow, why am I not enjoying this coffee right now with my wife? Why am I in such a rush to go answer that email that can wait 5.5 minutes? Live now, right? Live now, take advantage. That's a victory. right? So that's a victory of peace. And you'll learn to love that.
Yep. When's the best moment? Right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now. Everything's a guess. Everything else is a guess or history. And
Right.
how do you build a good story? How do you build a successful life? How do you build a narrative that you want to pass on as your legacy? Well, it's successive moments of now, because how you write now, how am I here? Who am I talking to? Am I present? Good. I was present, off it went. And if you do that enough times in a row and you look back, you're looking back at a life well lived,
That's right.
moment by moment, building itself. And
Yep.
none of us make the right choices all the time. 100%. Matter of fact, if somebody ever gives you a book that says how I had ultimate success by never making a mistake in my life ever,
Put it down.
well, yeah, burn. That's the one book I want you to go burn.
Yeah.
You know, grab it, burn
Yeah.
it, throw it at an enemy. I don't,
Yeah.
just and I think that's so great that you're saying, hey, it is that be present. Be present. Why? Because that's what you get. None of us are promised even 5 minutes.
Nope.
Be
Nope. Don't
present.
waste. Don't squander the moment.
Don't squander the moment. Well, my God, JJ, we have a ton of other topics. I was running out of room in my notebook here of things we can talk about and keep talking about and to go deeper on. But, I don't think we have time for like a 4-hour podcast today. So how can people follow you? So tell me, okay, so you're with Zero Eyes. Give me a
Yeah.
little bit about Zero Eyes and tell everybody how they can follow you really quick here and, get along for this journey.
Yeah, Zero is my new mission in life. So this company was started by 4 of my former colleagues, all Navy SEALs. These guys were much smarter than me. They got out after 8 years, back in 2008, and they went off to business school, brainiacs, all of them, and they started a company based really off the Parkland school shooting in Florida,
Mhm.
2018, 2019. And so the genesis of it was, if you've watched any of the footage from that or know the story, the lockdown drills just exploded after that. And one of our co-founders was taking his daughter to school on the East Coast, walked up to the school, looked at the cameras and said, "What are you guys doing with these?" And he got the answer, the standard answer: nothing. Right? They're great to look in the who broke into the car last night, who was on grounds and broke the window, but they're not being proactive. And so the basic mission of the company was to make cameras proactive by creating an algorithm, an AI algorithm that detects weapons, brandished weapons. And so we go on already existing camera infrastructures, and our AI detects a brandished weapon as soon as it comes out and it's visible to the camera. That detection then, and this is what breaks us out, ZeroWise has it nailed. We
Mhm.
are the only ones in space doing it at scale. We have our own operations center in Philadelphia. We have one in Hawaii as an outstation for redundancy and the crossover of time. But we have humans in the loop. So this is manned 365, 24/7 by former military and former law enforcement. You have to be there, all 911 correspondence trained, human performance trained. And they are the ones, the human in the loop, that takes the AI detection and makes that decision with a human authority to say, this is a threat. We are going to dispatch, and they do that in 3 to 5 seconds. So you can imagine the time, and then we pick up the phone and call 911, and we call the client. We stay on that phone until 911 says they have the scene secure. We become the situational awareness piece that lacks in every one of these workplace or school shootings. And so every camera in the world needs to have this on it while they fight at Capitol Hill over gun rights like they have for 40 years and get nothing done. There is a security measure that's available today. They need federal funding for it, but you can imagine it's like rallying with lobbyists on Capitol Hill. We have guys there every day doing their thing, but while they're doing their thing, we're trying to get schools to pay for it, states to pay for it, and corporations obviously have the money to protect their people. This is about protecting human lives, and the world's getting crazier. Hence, 2 days ago, I can give you 15 shootings that have happened in the last
Yeah.
2 weeks.
So Zero Eyes, proactive defense by people who know how to do it.
Yep.
I love that. Do you have anything? Oh, you mentioned a podcast coming up. I do have to mention that.
Yeah.
Give me
Appreciate
the
it.
promo. What?
So the fourth phase podcast. It's a play on buds, right? SEAL training, basic underwater demolition school. There's 3 phases of buds. We call this one the fourth phase, right? So this is the all-encompassing phase that you live in the entire time, where people forget to live in the present. They fast forward to the future all day long, and they're worrying about the news and things they can't control. We try to focus it back on connection, health, and well-being. And so my wife and I will travel through a journey with you. I'll give you some of my SEAL team discipline that is practical today, and on what to focus on a daily basis. People, again, they start, you're right, they drift, right? Fourth phase brings you back to the present, telling you what to focus on today. You can learn about connection. I think that's a key thing for guys, wives and girlfriends, is we lose focus, we get complacent. And so fourth phase is, our goal is to bring you back, listen to us for an hour a week, and then we're going to kick off in January. You go to the website, jjparma.com, where we have all that fourth phase little teasers. So we'll launch our first episode in January. And so hopefully you'll be a guest on our show.
I would love to.
Yeah, you can go to zeroeyes.com, check out the what the protocol is, what the security measure we are offering is, and then jjparma.com, where you can find out more about the Fourth Phase podcast and some of my public speaking that I've done in the past. And yeah, my wife built that, by the way, and she's incredible. So
awesome. Fourth Phase podcast. Get it, subscribe, tune into it. If I'm lucky, I'll get a chance to be on that. But if not, still go follow it, still go subscribe to it. Get after it. JJ, thank you very much for being here today. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure. You're a great human being. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
If this conversation stayed with you, that's not an accident. Episodes like this aren't about answers. They're about awareness, about noticing the patterns we carry and deciding whether they're still serving us. If you want more conversations like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'm Jason Elrod. Thanks for spending this time with us. Until next time, be present and lead with courage.